Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Sounds good. Well, we're going to get started because it is time. It's about 9 a.m. here in DC. Not sure what time it is for everyone else right now, but I'm glad you guys could join us for this webinar. We're going to talk about some alumni grant opportunities right now for Flex alumni, Yes alumni, and for everyone, there's the Global Youth Service Day grants program. My co-host today is Natia. Do you want to say hi, Natia?
Hi everyone. I'm joining from Philly's office to the webinar, and I would speak later after Hannah about USD grants.
Okay, great. So we're going to get started. So we're just going to talk about the goals of the grant program and why they're important. I'm a big proponent of this grant program. I just started working on it, and it's really great because we support the alumni initiatives in their countries and regions, and we help alumni develop professional skills in project management. So you're basically using a lot of the skills that you learned in the United States while you're on your exchange year and implementing those skills in your own communities. Um, and the U.S. Department of State, the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, funds these grants and administers these grants. And then they fund the grants, and then I administer the grants, basically, with the American Councils for International Education. So that's why you're going to be hearing a lot from me in regards to these grants and the process. The types of projects that we expect to see include community service projects. We see projects to promote community involvement and active citizenship. We see professional development activities and things that are going to help people promote long-term careers. We see projects to promote knowledge and understanding of English language and of U.S. culture. So a lot of people do talking clubs to practice their English language skills. We also see some initiatives where alumni share their skills that they learned while on the Flex program. And then lastly, but not limited to, we also have projects that are judged to be in the spirit of the Flex alumni program by the selection committee. So the funding that we have available for both Yes and Flex alumni grants, we have something called a travel grant, and that is going to be put towards something that is either personal or professional development. If you're going to be traveling for a conference, if you're going to be traveling for an exhibition or to take part in some sort of educational activity, that would be something for which you would apply to a travel grant. For the same cost, for $250, you can apply to an individual grant, and that would be a project like we were just talking about before. And then we can do group grants up to $3,000. And so what that means is there would be multiple Flex alumni in the project, or you could have non-Flex alumni in the project as well, but with that group project, you can get up to $3,000 for that. And so that'll be larger scale projects, community development, summer camp type is typical for what we see for these large projects. The expectation is that you guys are going to cost share at least 20% of your projects. And what that means is that we'll talk about this a little bit later, but you'll get in-kind contributions from people in your community. And you're going to be scored a little bit lower if you don't have a cost share, because we just want to see that you're trying to use your money to the best of your ability. If you have questions about the Yes Alumni Grant specifically, those are going to be to Jenny St. John. She is our Yes Alumni representative in the American Council's office. And if you see this website right here, there's a little bit more information about that as well. So the timeline for the Flex Alumni Grant is a little bit longer than the Global Youth Service Day Grant. On March 1st, 2018, you have to have your application in. The sooner the better, personally, but that's a complete end date for that. We will be evaluating grants in April. In the beginning of May, we will be starting to send out wire transfers and acceptance letters. And you will have to have your project completed and your final report filled out by March 31st, 2019. So a lot of people are emailing me about trying to implement projects this summer, and that's why I wanted to let you guys know that you would probably be, we start getting money in the beginning of the summer, so that you could implement a project this summer if you so choose. Okay, here is an example of a Flex Alumni project that is a group project. Tech Mothers was carried out by Zhibek in Kyrgyzstan. And this is a project that aims to teach computer literacy to mothers in rural areas of Kyrgyzstan, thereby increasing their chances of being employed. This is a really great project. And this 5-person team received $1,765 total in funding. And this project has been something that's been continuing for a while. Zhibek has been trying to extend the project to have multiple different phases. And so I say that just because you will be scored higher on your application evaluation if you can show that you intend to extend or continue your project in the future. We like to see something that will be ongoing. And as you can see on the PowerPoint, you can see a video of the project via this link. This is going to be an individual project grant. This is for funding for $247, I'm sorry, and Irina organized a summer school of arts. Excuse me. And so you can see she brought in some arts experts to implement some arts projects and arts lessons in her community. And if you'd like to learn more about that project, you can also click on that link right there. And lastly, I will explain the Alumni Travel Grant, and that is going to be up to $250. And like I said before, you can use this for educational or professional development. On the left, you can see Aijan, and she used her travel grant to travel to Jordan to serve as an intern for the Adolescent Development and Participation section of UNICEF for the regional office for the Middle East and North Africa. So that what I would say would be more professional development because she's completing an internship. On the right, Janar used her travel grant to attend a summer school program at the American Institute on Political and Economic Systems in Prague. So that I would say would be more of an educational development program. And now I'm gonna send it over to Nadia to talk about Global Youth Service Day.
That would be because I was muted. All right, can you guys hear me now? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. How many of you have been part of Global Youth Service Day celebration while you were in US? Can you please type your answer in the chat? Okay, so we see that a lot of yes is coming in. Sounds great. So you know what Global Youth Service Day is, right? It's the largest service event that is designed to mobilize youth to serve their community, and it is dedicated specifically to children and youth. This picture that you see on your screens right now is a screenshot from 2015. This is the number of events that took place all over the world, and they are pinned on the world map. And I really like showing it every year during this presentations about grants. It just shows you the multitude of the Service Day celebration that happens every year in March or April. Next slide. Let's go. You guys see next slide? Perfect. Maximum funding for Global Youth Service Day grants is $500. But the reason why Global Youth Service Day grant is a matching grant is because we are asking you to get fundraising and match the grant fund that we will provide by 50%. Which means that for every fundraised $200 that you receive from other donors or other partners, we will match another $200. But maximum that you can receive from American councils and through State Department is $500. This year, we have new countries that are added to the opportunity, and we have 20 countries that are involved and over 14,000 Flex and Yes alumni. Yes alumni living in countries where American councils administers Yes alumni programming. In 2017, we had 62 USD grant winners in 11 countries, and 2 of these USD grant winners were Yes alumni. Last year was the first year when we opened the opportunity for Yes alumni, and this year we expect to receive more applications and give out more grant awards to Yes alumni as well. Date for USD this year is April 20th through 22nd in 2018, but you can have projects that last longer than those 3 days, or that is close by those 3 weekend days. And here is the list of the countries and alumni living or who are from these countries can apply to receive funding for Global Youth Service Day. Generally, GYSD has 6 causes: health, education, environment, hunger, community building, and human rights. And you can choose one of those causes and have project connected to that. You can choose several if you wish, but I guess the one has to be the major one, and then you can add in others if you wish. Let's go to the next slide. If you have any questions, please send it through the chat, and I'll be checking it after every slide to answer them in case. So let's check if we have any questions yet. Cool. Awesome. Here you see 8 beautiful pictures, as these 8 beautiful pictures are 8 different projects throughout different years happening in 8 different countries. The very first one on the left is the picture from last year. This is a tree planting event in Albania by Bruno Hassa, Yes alumnus. The second picture here is the GYSD grant winner, Gentian from Kosovo. He did food raising for the 50 families that were in need and worked with the Red Cross to distribute the food to the families later. On the third picture top third picture is the healthy lifestyle promotion event in Negotin, Serbia by Strahinja, our Flex alumnus. The first picture is the again food collection. Our alumni in Montenegro for years have been working with Food Bank in Montenegro, and they have been collecting food around the Global Youth Service Day and donating it to the Food Bank, who later helps to support families in need. On the picture, you can see our Flex alumna, Dina Abazovic. This project was conducted by Zorana Dulovic and Dina Abazovic last year in Podgorica. The fifth picture on the left below It's a project from Astana, Kazakhstan. It's by our Flex alumnus Maulin Akhmetov. He conducted a week-long anti-stress week at Nazarbayev University, which involved art sessions, pillow fighting, and many more fun and interesting and distressing activities. The project next to it, the picture next to it is from the project, 5 minutes may save your life. Our Flex alumna from Kyrgyzstan back in 2014 did this project that was held in 8 different regions of Kyrgyzstan, involving and mobilizing a number of Flex alumni. The picture next to that is the group picture from Tajikistan. It was taken at Hisar Orphanage after the gym renovation in 2015. Hisar Orphanage has a number of visually impaired children, and this gym was renovated by Flex alumni who fundraised money among themselves and also received partial funding from Global Youth Service Day matching grants. This project was by Dilafruz from Tajikistan, and the last picture on the right below is 2 Flex alumni from Georgia. Nana Chigoga, the one sitting down, was holding first aid training in Akhaltsife, Georgia, and the other person who is showing how to fix person's head while providing first aid help is our current alumni coordinator in Georgia, Anka Tonishvili. Next, let's check if we have any questions. All right, so here is the timeline. Deadline for applications is February 1st. Notification will happen in March 2018. So we will use whole February of reviewing the application and then following up with grant applicants if we have any questions. After that, you will be notified whether you received the grant funding or not, and that would happen in March. We would ask you for further documentation, for example, your bank account number, your signature on a word letter where you agree on terms and conditions. And after that, you will receive funding in early April. Funds usually come through either Washington, D.C. office, with wire transfer, or it is transferred from local American Counsel's office, or it is given in cash from local American Counsel's office, or local American Counsel's office helps you buy the product or the equipment that you need for your project. Either way, we will notify you later depending on which country you're from. Next step is GYSD weekend, actually doing your project. And then report deadline would be May 7th this year, 2018. You will receive all the guidelines and instructions, but you will need to present a narrative and financial report. David is asking that if CRs are obliged to apply solely for GYSD grant, or if they can choose to apply for Flex alumni grants instead. You are, as I know, different alumni coordinators have different requirements. In Georgia, our alumni coordinator requires all city representatives to apply for GYSD grants, but you can also apply for Flex alumni grants, so you can have 2 applications. All right, so next slide, moving on. Did that sound clear? Okay, perfect. So next, I want to talk about useful tips. Let's talk about financial terms. Generally, budget should accurately reflect the project costs. I see that one of the, okay, do you mind if I finish talking about this slide and then we can let you ask the question, or you can type your question in the chat and we will answer it after I'm done with the slide. All right, so useful tips, financial terms. Budget should accurately reflect project costs. For example, when you apply, we know about how much, can you guys not hear me? Can you please answer if you can hear me or not? Okay, sorry. I got confused by the chat. Then, so if you are applying for the grant, let's say from Kyrgyzstan, and you are saying that coffee break costs approximately $1 per person, and then there is another alumnus who is applying from Kyrgyzstan who is saying that coffee break would cost approximately $2 per person, and then there's a third alumnus who is applying from Kyrgyzstan who is saying that coffee break would cost approximately $3 per person, then we are going to ask the office in Kyrgyzstan to tell us what is the approximate number of the coffee break, and then decide if this is a accurate cost or not, what alumni are suggesting. Sometimes you can just see that 5 projects would write down that coffee break is about $2, while others would say that it's $5. And then, you know, the person who asked for $5 needs to clarify why it's $5, and maybe they just did not make research to find out how much the coffee break would cost. For Flex Alumni grants, you will receive 80% of your funds upfront, and you will receive 20% of the funds later after you submit your final report. So let's say you received $1,000 in funding. First, Hannah will transfer you $800, and after you spend the $800 plus potentially $200 from your own funds, and you submit reports, Hannah will transfer you the 20%, which would be $200 in this example's case, later to your bank account. And each applicant is responsible to consider taxes or other fees that may apply to the grant. There have been cases where after wire transfer was received, bank would charge, let's say, $50 commission, and that would be subtracted from the grant. And which means that the $50 that you had, let's say, for stationery, you don't have it anymore because you did not ask your bank if they had any commission or not beforehand. So make sure you double check with your bank, you double check with American Council's local office if there are any taxes that are connected to alumni grants, and after that you either add it to your budget or you include it somehow in the narrative. Next is some other helpful tips. As I already mentioned, including bank transfer commissions, fees, and taxes in your budget is a must and is solely your responsibility. We sometimes know what are the taxes in different countries, but they change. So it is your responsibility to make sure you include it in your budget. You start your working on your application early. For the past 4 years, I worked on this alumni programming. I've seen that started applications before the day of the deadline is maybe 30, and on the day of the deadline is 95, which is sad because you need to have support letters. You need to know what are the questions, what are we asking you, how the application looks like, what are this information you still need, and then apply it. Also, affects the quality of the project, and sometimes you might think that you clearly wrote what your idea was, but sometimes it's not very clear, and there are times where I guess from the budget what the project is about, and person has only been talking about the problem in the description, but in the budget they're asking, let's say, for it's an environment protection problem project, let's say, and somebody is talking about how big of a problem it is, but does not say what they're going to do during their project. And then you get to the budget, and budget says gloves and the trash bins and I don't know, like sticks and etc. And then you're like, okay, are they planning to do a cleanup? And you're not sure. So to avoid this mistake, start working on your application as soon as possible, at least not on the day of the actual deadline. Legal issues that where you might need an official document. I know that some countries require you to have official permissions before you do anything in a public area with more than 20 people. involving more than 20 people. So maybe if you are doing a flash mob or some kind of big cleanup, you have to work with City Hall to give you permission, or just sometimes you have to notify. When I was doing Safe Roads project in Georgia, I had to notify Ministry of Internal Affairs, so they would also allocate 2 police cars that would make sure that the participants of this project would be safe while crossing the roads. So keep in mind about these legal issues, and make sure that you have approvals before you submit your project. Have someone proofread your proposal. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes you think you know what a brilliant idea you have, and you want to write it all down and send it as soon as possible so we receive it, but then you actually don't write it very clearly, or you concentrate so much on the problems that you don't actually write how you're going to solve this problem. And then it is not very clear, and it might make your grant proposal rejected because it was not very clear. So make sure you have at least one other person look over it. Sometimes there are a lot of typos. I personally make a lot of typos, and I read my email drafts 3 times before I send it out. And even with that, sometimes there are still mistakes because you overlook once you know what word you wrote there, and maybe instead of our, you write out, and it's etc. Right? So make sure you have at least one other person who would look over it. And it doesn't have to be a native speaker. It can be just fellow Flex alumnus or your classmate who would like to help you with the project. And evaluate your project yourself. You always know whether you can do it or not, if you have enough time, if you have enough experience, or if you are requesting enough money to complete it. Are you trying to have a summer camp where you mobilize 20, 18-year-old kids while you're also 18 years old? If yes, then maybe you should think about if that is a great idea, if you have enough experience. And if you don't, who are you going to ask for help to come and be in a camp with you? Right? The other things to keep in mind are generally, if you open any grant application, whether it is USD matching grant or Flex Alumni grants, it has 2 pages of instructions, starting from how to create a PDF file, ending with what are the questions you should answer in your proposal. And the fact that you're already attending this webinar means that you're interested to follow the guidelines. But just to make sure that you understand it fully, is that it's very important that you let us know why your project is important. Because maybe you are from, I don't know, let's say Estonia. Estonia is a new country, right? So we don't know a lot about, from other previous grant proposals, what are the problems in Estonia. And maybe I personally know, but maybe Hannah is reading your application and she doesn't. So you should let us know why this specific problem is so important for your community. Reference to your personal experience. There is the box where we ask you how you came up with this idea, if it is somehow connected with your US experience. If it's not a big problem, but you have to say how it is connected to your personal experience. Maybe it's something that later came into your life. Maybe it is something that you learned while you were studying in your university when you came back home. That's also acceptable, but you have to let us know how is this problem or project is connected to your personal experience. Next thing is the surveys, tests, and statistics. Whenever you apply for grants, and not just our alumni grants, any grants, you always have to have something that you're referring to that can prove that what you're saying is actually true. And it can be surveys that have been conducted, tests that other companies have carried out, or maybe you have done in your community, or some statistics. Usually all the countries have their different surveys that either governments do or different nonprofits do. For example, in Caucasus, there is this research Caucasus Barometer, which has different studies on different age groups and different socio-political issues in the region, and you can go and like mark what kind of research you're searching for and find out the answers. And you can include in your grant proposal that according, let's say, Caucasus Barometer, my country, Georgia, has this problem, and I can also see this in my community, and I would like to do this project that will help solve this issue. Geography is also very important. So if your community is some kind of, let's say, rural region that is maybe different from the capital, let's say Dushanbe, and you're maybe from Horog in Tajikistan, and geography matters in your case, you should definitely mention it in the proposal. Demography, population of the country, city, etc. also matter. History of the problem. Sometimes problems have actual histories, how they developed, how they came. Maybe this group that you want to work with is let's say the city has a lot of ethnic minorities and you want to do a project where you bring them together. You have to talk about the problem and the history of this problem, how, not like 5-page essay, but just to let us know how it all started. Next is overview of the causes and possible consequences. You usually know what can go wrong, so it's always good if we know that you are not actually flying in the sky, but you actually have a good sense of reality, and you know if this goes wrong, you will have a backup plan. For example, one of the years when I received my USD grant as a Flex alumni in Georgia, it snowed in April in my region where I wanted to do tree planting. And in that case, firstly, I did not expect it would snow in April, but it did. So then my reaction was that I would move it a few weeks later, and I worked with the alumni office back then and moved the project dates. That could be done if there are big issues, but also what are the possible consequences? Maybe school director won't let you use the space, and what is the alternative if school director won't let you use her space or his space to conduct your project. These are some tips that we thought of up front for you. If now I'm going to go to the chat and see if there were any questions that I did not answer while I was explaining. Okay. Thank you, Bobo, for helping. Now, since I don't see any questions about the tips that I've talked about, I'm going to move to another slide. This year, we have news. We added some rules to the funding, and it is about justification needed for certain items that you're asking to be funded. For example, last year, if you have applied for GUSD or Flex Alumni grants, it was in our guidelines that you could not include T-shirts as part of your budget. This year, we removed this restriction, but we moved, let's say, T-shirts or other promotional materials under the items that need justification. And we put cap of 30% on it. So let's say you're applying for $500 grant, and you want to purchase, let's say, banners. Banners and maybe also T-shirts. Together, banners and T-shirts cannot be more than 30% of your budget. So if you would like to receive $500 project grant from us, let's say GUSD grant, and you want to use part of it on T-shirts and the banners, it cannot be more than $150 for these two items in total. And I mean, any other things that are listed in the blue list right now, construction materials. A lot of times we would receive funding requests for crash stones, iron bars, paint, sand, wood. People would request this item so they could make benches or trash bins for the schools or for the community. And a lot of times these projects were rejected. Now we would like you to have opportunity to still apply while also securing maybe funding for these items from someone else. Let's say somebody is giving you, will pay half of this for half of this item, and you are asking for the other part to be paid from us, but we're okay with that as long as it is justified why you need this and why it's so important for your project, and it does not go over $150 cap. The same goes for promotional materials, which are printed bags, banners, bracelets, stickers, t-shirts, any other promotional materials. Maybe it's not listed here, but something that is promotional material that you would like to give out as a gift should be justified. The other thing is we usually don't support buying gifts for participants. So if you have specific questions about any of these restrictions, you could feel free to reach out to me or Hannah about it, but know that these items that are listed here, construction materials and promotional materials, they go under the cap of 30% and they need to be justified. And for example here, how to justify, I brought 2 examples for you. Let's say 10 YES alumni trainers will wear YES branded t-shirts every day. We believe that t-shirts will promote the YES program in Albania among 1,000 high school students who will be involved in YES alumni grant summer school. So this is one of the examples how you can do the can everyone mute themselves? Please. Guys, can you please mute yourself? Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on. This was one of the examples. Second example is local community mobilized all the needed construction materials, sand, crushed stones, and human resources to renovate water supply for local public school in Khorog, Tajikistan. We need to buy pipes to cover 200 meters to connect school to the main water pipeline. We believe that this will promote flex program in the local community. So A, you already have a cost share from local community. They are also interested to do this project. B, it is hopefully under the cap of the 30%, whatever they're writing in the budget. And C, it is a good cause where it will promote flex program in the local community. So maybe more people will apply for the program later next year. Other thing that to keep in mind is that program does not fund purchases of computer equipment, including laptops or camera, printer, scanner, projector, etc. We don't fund alumni salaries and political activities working for or against any specific candidate or party. Are there any questions at this point? Okay, so the next slide is about matching grants. So what do you think is a matching grant? Can you please type your answers in the chat again? Okay, we have an answer. Let's see, if you find $10, you will get $10 from the grant. Yes, you're right, David. There was, okay. Yes, Alexandra, thank you for the answer. Yes, you raised money and then American councils will double the amount unless it's over. So we will not double it, we will match it. We will give you the same amount, but it won't be more than $500 cap. And you have to tell us why you actually need it. So let's say we are conducting a training and a volunteer activity afterwards. We're conducting a training on volunteering and promotion of volunteer service in our local high school. All right. Our school has suggested that they would give us a venue for this training for high school students. So that is, they're giving us room for free. So that's a great news, right? This room, otherwise, if the school director would have rented it out, would cost money, right? So you already have, let's say, 20% cost share from your school director. And maybe, let's say, this room would cost $50 to rent. You already have $50 in cost share. What you need from your school director is to get support letter which says that let's say, Natia Sharika, the school director of Tbilisi #1, will give room after classes for this training, and I will not charge for it. Usually renting this room costs $50 per day. And signed by the director, stamp, and you scan this letter and you send it to us along with your application. And you already have $50 cost share. Let's say, so you already have a room. You already told your high school student that they should come to this training. They come. You also need cleaning supplies later for the cleanup, right? You can ask American councils to give you $50 for cleanup supplies that you will do after your training. Does this make sense? So you receive funding from someone else, or you receive materials for free from someone else, and then American councils will match it. But if you are giving, you're getting room from school for $50, $50 cost share, we will not give you $50 to pay back the school. Or if somebody is giving you stationery for free, we won't give you money to buy same stationery. So it has to be for some other purpose. If there are no questions, I'll move to the next slide. Hannah, do you want to take over here, or do you want me to continue?
Yes, I can take over. Give me 1 second. Let me just get everything handled. I guess I'm behind. Okay, what can you get as an in-kind contribution? I don't know why it's not showing up. So things that you can get as an in-kind contribution include a venue at a university, school, the American Corner in your city, etc. We also see a lot of people getting stationery provided by a partner organization. Because we don't provide hard equipment such as electronic equipment, that would be something that you could get donated also in relation to the venue. So a computer, a projector, speakers, a printer, a scanner, etc. In the same idea, equipment and building materials are things that you can get contributed by someone else. T-shirts, as we discussed earlier, you're going to need to justify t-shirts. So if you would like more t-shirts or don't necessarily think that they can be justified in the way that we expect them to be, then you can have them donated. Food and drinks from local businesses. Marketing materials and advertising space, so that would, be, say, something in a magazine, something in a newspaper, a poster on a wall at a school. Those would all be something that would fit under the category of marketing materials, and labor. So that is a big one. If someone volunteers for the event or donates their time for free. If you're going to get speakers, sometimes people give them an honorarium, but sometimes speakers will volunteer their time for free, and so that would be an example of an in-kind contribution. Also transportation. If the participants themselves cover transportation to and from the event, or a partner organization provides transportation. And lastly, if a community decides to collect money for the cause or event, that would be considered an in-kind contribution. And as I said before, this is an example of cost sharing, and we expect that alumni using the Flex Grant will do some sort of cost sharing. We like to see that you're cost sharing to show that you're thinking a lot about your budget and only requesting what is vitally necessary. And what I mean when I say vitally necessary, I mean that it's not something that you can get for free from someone or somewhere in your community. So we like to see that you're not just asking American councils and Flex for a large exorbitant amount of money if you can just do a little bit of work and get a lot of those necessary items covered by something else. We also like to see that your community is supporting your project and taking part, and so that would be another great example of how an in-kind contribution would be beneficial to your application, because people in your community or other organizations are taking part. So now Natia is going to tell us what a support letter is.
Thank you, Hannah. Can you please click twice? Okay, so here you guys can see the example support letters. These are from 2015, from two separate grant projects. One is from Moldova and the other one is from Georgia. And I just took screenshots for you guys to see what they could look like. For example, the one on the left from International Black Sea University says that they will be providing room and stationery. It's just very small and you cannot maybe read it clearly, but it says about prizes and the stationery that they will provide for the workshop that will be held at the university. And total cost of that would be $265. So once I see this document along with the application, I know that this person already secured $265. So if they're asking in their budget for another $265 from American councils, let's say for food for participants, then we should approve it because they have matched it, as long as the application, the whole application is well written and well set out. Right. The other one on the right is from Creative Development Association in Moldova, and this organization gave a support letter to our Flex alumnus, which says that they will be supporting list of items during the Ecomania celebration for 1 month in Moldova, and their list of items, and in total it was over $1,000. But this person could only apply up to $500 in terms of when it comes to USD grants, even though they secured over $1,000 of cost share. And these are required for a Global Youth Service Day grant. They're also required for Flex Alumni grant, but if you don't have cost share and support letter, you won't be receiving Global Youth Service Day grants, even if your application is perfect. Whereas in Flex Alumni grants, you can receive it as long as there is a cost share and you will submit support letters, but it does not have to be 50-50 in case of Flex Alumni grants. A minimum of 20% is also acceptable. And yes, Mikola, you can be part of the team that is applying for the grant project, but alumni coordinators cannot receive grants from our alumni grant projects because it's against the rules, because American Councils is evaluating the project. We cannot give grants for our employees. Next slide, please, Hannah.
Okay, everyone, so now I'm going to run through the application with you. First, we're going to do the Flex Alumni Grant. Here you can see, this is after you sign in, this is what it's going to look like on the first page of the application. You can see a list of countries here that we accept applications from. And then this has a little run through of some of the information that we covered earlier, explaining the grants, the different types of grants, eligibility, etc. You see right here, this is my contact information. If you guys have any questions at all after this webinar, please feel free to shoot me an email at this email address. Here's some more information about the selection process, stuff that we covered earlier, but if you want to read over it, that's perfectly great, and you know, just a lot of information that you can look for here. Application instructions are also very important. Please be sure to read these just so you don't submit your application incorrectly or, God forbid, not submit it at all. Again, questions, please contact me. So here's going to be the basic application starting. You're going to give all of your information. We do like to get your contact and social media information so we can keep up with your projects, especially if you're using the Flex hashtag. We're going to be asking if you've attended any of our workshops before, what kind of participation you take part in as an alumnus. We like to see that you're an active alumnus. That will definitely score you higher on your application. So if you are an alumni coordinator, if you're a city representative, or if you are very active in your alumni community, that's going to be great. Here you're going to give a short description of the event, where it's going to take place, what part you're going to be taking in the project. So you can see this is a travel grant. They also have project grant here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Something that's might need a little explaining here is going to be the basic information of other Flex alumni that are going to be taking part in your grant project with you. We would like for you to provide as much information about them as possible. And here, this is where you're really going to be doing the thick of the explanation. As Natia described earlier, this is probably what you're going to want someone to proofread for you, just so that it's extremely clear what you're trying to say. This is going to be probably the most important part of your application. And especially here as well, the project narrative is definitely same as before. This is what you're going to be describing all of your projects, and you're going to be as clear as possible. Here we give you the option to attach your resume and the resumes of your team members. And this is also very important, the detailed project timeline. We want to see when you're going to be doing something. We want to make sure that it's feasible for you to carry out your project in the timeline that you give us. We want you to be as specific as possible and use as much detail as possible. You know, don't just say start project now, end project now. We would really like to see at what point you're going to be buying supplies, where you're going to be buying supplies, you know, when you're going to be contacting people. All the information, the better. Same as before, the more information, the better when it comes to the grant budget. This right here is a lot of information describing the grant budget. And there's some tips here as well, talking about cost share as we discussed before. And right here is where you're going to be adding, see, you can add 3 more. You can add a lot of lines for your grant budget. We would like to see everything possible, and we would like to see on this item narrative portion here, maybe a little justification. If you're going to have a coffee break, explain what you're going to have in the coffee break, each item that you expect to buy for the coffee break, how much each item is going to cost. So say coffee for 10 people, cup of coffee is $1 each. That's going to be a total of $10. Please be, again, as specific as possible, because we don't want to have to follow up and ask you more questions about your budget or need you to justify. It'd be better if we could get all that information up front. And here is the section for a letter of support that Nadia discussed earlier. Again, I don't speak any language besides English, so if you do receive a letter of support in any other language besides English, we will trust your translation of it into English, but we would ask for a translation so that I am able to read it. And we would like for it to be on the company letterhead of the company that from which you are receiving this letter, just so that it is official and we can verify that they're officially supporting you. And then next page, this is where you're going to electronically sign and certify the above statement that you're agreeing to everything that we say. Please be sure to save changes as much as possible. Again, you don't want to lose anything, especially on that project narrative portion. That's a lot of words that you'll be typing, and it would be a shame to lose all of that. And here's where you submit your grant. As Nati said before, it's probably not advisable to start this and end this on March 1st. The sooner you start this, the better, especially so you can receive those letters of support, you can proofread your application and make sure it's as clear as possible, and you can have some of your friends proofread it as well, just so that they understand your idea as clearly as you understand your idea. And Natia is now going to go through the GYSD grant program application.
Indeed. So I will be going through the GYSD application now. To go to GYSD application, you need to go to ace.americancouncils.org/GYSD. And here you need to fill out your username and password. If you don't have username and password, that means that you've never applied before. You can create your new username and password over here in the box over here. And then once you log in, it will look like this. Sorry, I have to. Just a second. Hannah, can you mute your microphone?
Yes.
You typing. Right. So my login information is kind of complicated compared to yours. I'm trying to log in to show you how it would look like once you already create your account. And here, this is how it would look. So there will be only one application form open. It will be GYSD, but on the below here, you can also see that you can go to Flex Alumni and apply for Flex Alumni application over there. Once you click open for GYSD, you can go here again. It lists all of the requirements, tells you deadline, eligibility. It tells you more, and these are the questions I was talking about. Does the application meet all the requirements of GYSD grant? Has the grant applicant shown in the budget and through letters of support that fundraising or in-kind support has been found with the value of exceeding or equal to the amount of money asked for the grant? These are the questions that evaluators will answer after reading your grant proposal, and if whenever your grant proposal does not answer any of these questions, you will be scored lower. So it's pretty simple. We tell you everything up front. You just need to follow the guidelines. Here also you can read information about prohibited items and items that require strong justification. Please remember that only the fact that it is under 30% cap is not enough. You actually have to justify why you need these items. And those items are promotion materials and building materials. Moving forward, application instructions, more of the instructions. And then here, we ask you to type in your basic information, name, program year, program CD, state, etc. Your URLs on different social media, which later will be updated to database from this application form. Then you actually choose the causes for GYSD. Remember the 6 causes I showed you on the PowerPoint: health, community building, education, environment, health, human rights, and poverty and hunger. You can choose one, whichever is more relevant to your project. You write your project title, dates, and the project city and country. Then over here, you can do the same. You add other Flex alumni or other US government-sponsored program alumni who are helping you with this project, or other non-alumni participant, maybe your classmate or your best friend from childhood is helping you with the project. That's fine. Just tell us if they are just coming to take pictures. That's It could be also being part of the team. If they're helping you with actual plannings and organizing, please write their names down. If they're just volunteering, it's your judgment whether you want to write them down as group members or not. Here we ask you for direct and indirect beneficiaries. We ask you which how did you learn about this grant program? So it helps us later next year to change our promotion routes, whether depending which one of them is more effective. And then there we ask you if you're a city representative or university representative of the Flex or Yes program, and if you have attended alumni workshops. If you are a city representative, you do get preferential treatment about receiving the grants from us. Then we have project narrative, just like Hannah showed you for Flex Alumni Grant, and then we ask you how is this project related to your experience in US. Then we ask you for the budget. Well, here, when it says total, sometimes people make mistake and they like mix up which one to put in which part of the required part. So the first one is the one, the amount that you are requesting from us. Let's say you're requesting $500, and let's say your cost share is $500. Total project cost would be 500 plus 500. 1,000, but you're only asking for $500 from the $1,000 project that you're organizing in your community from American Councils. And then here, budget, just like Hannah showed you, you can add more and add as many as you need. Later, it's required to upload support letter. You can download simple support letters and look at them. Here, if you click on this link, it will take you to sample support letter, and it also has sample budget that you can click on, and it will show you here. So this is the sample budget, for example, from previous years, and here we had sample letter of support. And here we have a number of them. The two I already showed you. This is the third one, which is in Russian, but alumnus can translate it themselves and send us the translation. All right. So then after this, we have certification, online certification that project leader needs to write their name and last name and submit it. And Hannah already talked about the importance of saving your work as you go, and that's pretty much it. Are there any questions about the application at this point? All right. If alumni negotiated with a speaker to hold a seminar for free, do they have to have a signed letter from speaker as well for a cost share? Yes. And if speaker is a person who does not have a company like letterhead and a stamp, we would accept if they write their name, their phone number, and email, so we can verify the information with them if needed. But it doesn't have to have a stamp if the person doesn't have a stamp. But everything that you're getting in cost share has to be written and signed. There have been cases where person's mother was making cakes for volunteers, and they had to write a support letter and sign it themselves. So that could also be a cost share, and it needs a support letter. Now we would take any questions you guys might have. You can write here, or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask. We're here to help you or support you in any way possible. This video will be uploaded on YouTube, and we can also send it to you via email. Are you a CR? Victoria. I'm assuming this Victoria Lungu from Moldova. We can share the PowerPoint with alumni coordinators. So the recording of today's webinar will be shared with alumni coordinators for redistribution. It will be also posted on our Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, so you guys can share with your other alumni who were not able to attend and are interested. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to me and Hannah, and I will type my email address over here so you. Thank you everyone for coming and allocating your evening of Friday evening to us, especially given that I know a lot of you are having exams or midterms or other important things that you need to be doing right now. And we would love to see a big number of applications and especially interesting applications. And we would like to support you in any way we can.